Russians dug the world's deepest hole. Now I know the frightening reason why. On the 24th of May 1970, the Soviet Union started a project that would be known as the Kola Super Deep Borehole. Although it has been long since abandoned, the hole still exists today and measures about 40,000 feet in depth. The Kola borehole is not the only time Russia dug further than they should have, and several holes can still be found today, unprotected, in the desolate Russian wilderness. The biggest mistake of my life is going down one of these holes. A year ago, my work took me to a small Russian fishing village located in Siberia. It's a tiny place populated by no more than 200 people, most of them fishermen or hunters. It wasn't the first time being a scientist had gotten me into strange situations. I'm a geologist, which is not important for the purpose of this story, but I have experience in search and rescue operations back home in the United States. My Russian language abilities were less than satisfactory, and considering only 2 people beside my crew spoke English in the village, it was a challenge to say the least. However, with the right spirit and willingness to share a bottle of vodka, they were some of the friendliest people I'd met in my entire life. I particularly enjoyed the company of the village's only police officer, Vadim, who happened to speak at least a basic level of English. His job mostly consisted of escorting people home after they had a bit too much to drink, although he oftentimes partook in the drinking rather than stopping it. Needless to say, we quickly became good friends. We rather enjoyed ourselves in such a bizarre world, cut off from civilization. At least we did until the 9th month of our deployment. One of the locals' 7-year-old daughter had gone missing. Her name was Daria, and she had been out playing with her friends around an old abandoned building widely believed to be a Soviet-era silo. The whole structure had been closed off for almost 40 years and forgotten, yet the children loved hanging out in the area. On that particular day, the silo was open. The doors were broken down, which revealed a large room full of ancient equipment and a large dark hole in the center. The hole measured about 50 feet in diameter, and the depth was unknown. There was a basic elevator platform in the center of the hole, like something used for descending mines. All that could be seen was endless darkness reaching into the abyss. Daria had fallen into it. I immediately knew in my heart that the fall had killed her. A fall that deep, even if the bottom was a pool of water, it would be lethal. The other children insisted that Daria had called out for help after falling into the hole, which gave out false hope to the terrified mother. It was the first time I had seen Vadim efficiently work to put together a rescue operation. Calling for official aid so far out was a hopeless task. Even if they sent help, they would arrive too late. Seeing as I had some experience in that field, alongside basic first aid, I volunteered, as did one of my colleagues, Stanley. While the mechanics attempted to revive the old machinery, including the elevator, I attached a sinker to a line in hopes of measuring the depth. The line wasn't long enough to determine where the bottom was, even though the longest ropes combined measured almost 1,000 feet. After a couple of hours, the mechanics announced that the elevator was ready, but they had found some sort of protective suits. According to the few documents found in the facility, the atmospheric pressure was quite high, and the temperatures reached up to 150 degrees. I knew then we would retrieve nothing but the body of a little girl for the family to bury. Gotov, ready? Vadim asked us. The suits were poorly fitted to our slightly untrained figures and chafed in places I didn't know it was possible. We entered the lift, which was protected by a rusty metal cage full of holes. We were given only one walkie-talkie to communicate with the people on the surface, in addition to some old flashlights. "We're ready. Lower us down," Stanley said. The gears running the elevator platform started churning. A clunky sound echoed through the room down the hole. There was a small screen on the elevator with numbers signifying the depth. It was an excruciatingly slow process, no more than a foot per second. However, the change in atmosphere was imminent. We descended 100 feet. Darkness had already enveloped us. The weak flashlights we had brought along hardly provided any comfort. "You think this is dark? Wait till you see winter in village," Vadim said, his usual dull humor. Me and Stanley both faked a chuckle. "Would you please check if the radio works, Vadim?" I asked. "It works, no worries," he responded. 500 feet. The walkie sounded for the first time since our descent almost 10 minutes ago. The Russian was heavy, and the static made it incomprehensible to a novice such as myself. "What was that, Vadim?" I asked. "Oh, they just ask how deep we are. Shouldn't we be able to hear them talking? We're only 500 feet down," Stanley asked. "Yes, something strange here," Vadim said. Other than the electrical hum of the ancient elevator and the sound of Stanley nervously shifting his weight, we couldn't hear the chatter of people just above us. "Very strange," Vadim mumbled to himself. Something about Vadim seemed off. I had never seen him worried like that before. "Guys, is it getting really warm here or is it just me?" "Yeah, I'm sweating bullets already," I responded. 1,000 feet. "Pomogite!" A soft voice cried out from the depths below. "Did you hear that?" I asked. "Hear what?" "Someone called for help from below." "I hear nothing." I put a finger to my lips, gesturing for silence while listening attentively. Then I heard the voice again. "Help!" The same voice, but slightly louder. There it was again. "Yes, I heard it," Vadim said. "Hold on. They called for help?" "Yes, you heard it too." "Of course, but it was in English." It wasn't too unusual for the children to pick up on an English word or two while we were visiting. But this wasn't that. It didn't make sense for a young girl to know that word, not in a tiny Siberian village. Vadim called out for the voice, but no one responded. Damn it, can we make this thing go any faster? 4,000 feet. More than an hour had passed and we couldn't see the bottom yet. It had been quite some time since we heard the voice and I had developed a throbbing headache from the heat. If someone had really called out from the bottom, we should have reached it already. Guys, I see light, Vadim announced. What are you talking about? Light, at bottom, look. He frantically jumped up and down while pointing towards the darkness below. There's nothing there, Vadim, Stanley said. How can you not see? It's so bright. I glanced over at Stanley in confusion. My first thought was that Vadim was going crazy due to the heat and darkness. 5,000 feet. None of us had said a single word since Vadim told us about the light. Our moods were descending much faster than the elevator. On top of that, my headache was almost killing me. Out of nowhere, the elevator stopped, shaking violently in the process. It knocked me straight to the floor, and I was out in an instant. A few seconds passed while I came back to it, and I saw Stanley lying unmoving next to me. Vadim, however, was nowhere to be found. Stan, are you all right? I shook his shoulder. He grunted as he sat back up. What the hell just happened? I don't know, man, but Vadim's gone. What? Where did he go? I don't know. He just vanished. We looked around. There was no way out of the elevator. Although there were a few holes in the metal cage surrounding us, it would still be impossible for a large man such as Vadim to get through. Hey, I found the walkie, Stanley said. Try calling the surface. He called for help, but static was the only response.
Are you afraid of the Leshy? The Leshy is a powerful but temperamental nature spirit that dwells in the forests of Russia and Poland. These minor Slavic gods sometimes lead travelers to get lost deep in the woods, but will protect those who care for the ancient forests they call home.
I'm walking down the street and this Mercedes pulls up in front of me and these two guys get out of the front seat. They reach into the back seat. They grab something out and I see it's this woman with beautiful red hair. She's in like a beautiful cocktail dress. They're pulling her out of the back seat of this Mercedes. I'm the only one on the street and they clearly don't see me, but this woman sees me. She makes like direct eye contact with me. They're pulling her out of the back seat. She's not fighting them, but she's not helping them either. She's just like completely limp and just being dragged. They take her over to this building and they just start like opening her head up against the side of this building and start smashing her head. So I like forgot where I was and like I ran at this guy and I grabbed him in English. I'm like, man, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? He just pulled out a gun. He just put it like right to my forehead and he said in English, he's like, go away. Like that. I knew in an instant, like I was a bug. Like that was a different, you know, I'd seen guns before, I'd seen stuff before. I just knew that this was a completely different level. I walked away listening to that, listening to what they were doing. So that's on the brutality side of it.
The vast Russian winters hide ancient tales. Meet Morozko, the deity of winter's wrath and beauty. He freezes landscapes, making them breathtakingly beautiful, yet fiercely cold. Legend tells of a girl, abandoned and tested by Morozko's chill. Yet her kindness warmed his icy heart, turning cruelty into gifts. In Russia, Morozko is a reminder. Despite winter's harshness, warmth and kindness prevail. Morozko, an embodiment of nature's duality and Russia's heart. Remember his legend, for winter is never just cold. Deep within the dense Russian forests where the fog wraps around ancient trees, a legend stirs. Meet Baba Yaga, the enigmatic sorceress of Slavic folklore. Dwelling in a curious hut with chicken legs, her home is as elusive as her intentions. A figure of duality, she can be your gravest threat or your only hope. While her ways are malevolent to some, those pure of heart may find an unexpected ally. For the brave souls who venture to seek her wisdom, proving one's worth could lead to an invaluable aid. Baba Yaga, a mystic force of Russian folklore, reminding us that things are not always as they seem.
Baba Yaga is a wicked witch from Russian folklore who feeds on children. Baba Yaga is depicted as an enormous, ugly old woman who lives in a hut built on 4 tall chicken legs that can be relocated on command. She is also seen as a forest spirit who flies through the air in a mortar. Baba Yaga can be a source of guidance when approached correctly, but she can be dangerous when too many questions or the wrong questions are asked.